Welcome to Maniac Movies, updates Wednesdays and Fridays, and I'm actually doing a comedy this week. That doesn't happen very often.
We ask that you consider no positive role models.
What time is it?
7:15
So early.
at night.
If you thought Zack Morris from Saved by the Bell was a little morally iffy in his behavior, check out Mark-Paul Gosselaar in Dead Man on Campus, the hard R dark comedy from the late 90s. He's way worse here.
Oh, shake it off.
And most importantly,
Just remember you have to keep a B+ average to keep your scholarship.
You're looking at a dead man.
Don't worry, kid.
Daleman has always had a rule that if your roommate
died as a result of his own willful act,
you get straight A's.
I'm not gonna kill myself, in case that's what you're wondering.
okay, now, here's Mr. Z.
Who's Mr. Z?
Mr. Z is the guy who's gonna kill himself whether he lives with us or not. Might as well live with us so his death won't be in vain.
So there's been a lot of talk about Saved by the Bell lately, and a lot of it's because of them bringing it back for some thing. I don't know. It stars the guy who played Slater now, grown up, and he works at the school. And also the YouTube series from I think Funny or Die, Zack Morris's Trash. Now a friend of mine told me about that about 6 months ago, and I finally got around to checking it out. And I don't like bite-sized content like that. I don't like 3-4 minute shows, but it is funny. It's just not really for me because I don't like to have to sit there and watch it and okay, it's been 3 minutes. I gotta find something else to watch. But it is funny, and it is a good explanation of why Zack Morris is really not a good person on that show. And I'm currently watching the I think it's 2.5 hour burn through binge watch that Brad Jones over at Stone Gremlin, the Stint on the Snob himself, is doing. And I'm most of the way through that. And I remember a lot of those episodes because I grew up in the 90s. And Saved by the Bell was in such heavy syndication in the 90s. It was like Friends or King of Queens or something where it's just always on. If you scroll around, and it's still on TV. There was a period after I moved when I didn't have cable, I didn't have internet, so all I had was the free channels that you get if you get like the little cable box and you can just pick up some channels for free. And Saved by the Bell was on Sunday morning, so when I get off work, it's like, oh, I guess I'm watching this for about a half an hour until I finally fall asleep. And I had forgotten legitimately how bad of a person Zack Morris is. He is just a manipulative prick. He only cares about himself. He treats women like garbage. He doesn't even really have any friends. If you watch the show, it's kind of astonishing. But I'm not here to talk about Save a Bell. I'm here to talk about Dead Man on Campus, which was supposed to be Mark-Paul Gosselaar's big breakthrough. Now, it turned out to be a little too edgy for mainstream audiences, and when you're trying to sell a college comedy about two roommates who want to find someone unstable enough to kill themselves to be their third roommate so they can get an automatic 4.0, because of that old myth, I think it's a myth, I don't know for sure if it's true or not, I never knew anyone that offed themselves in, but that in college has to give you a 4.0 if your roommate kills himself to give you a period of grief. So they're trying to do that. So this is a movie about two guys trying to find a third guy who will commit suicide in their dorm room so they can get straight A's. Yeah, he's way worse here. So the movie stars Mark-Paul Gosselaar and Tom Everett Scott. Mark-Paul Gosselaar has had a long career as a TV star. He was on NYPD Blue, he's on Franklin and Bash, which I actually thought was really funny. He's on a show now called Mixed-ish, which I assume is somehow a spin-off of Blackish, but I don't watch either of them, so I don't know. But, you know, he never really did many movies, and I looked it up, and Dead Man on Campus was his last theatrical movie, and it was released in 1998 until about 10 years ago. He had a really small supporting role in a Robert De Niro movie called Heist. So he's done very, very few theatrical films. He's a TV guy. But he's good in this. He's actually really funny in this. He stars with Tom Everett Scott. Tom Everett Scott is best known for that movie, That Thing You Do, which frankly is a movie. It had Tom Hanks in it that is best known for the song. I don't think the movie was really even all that well known, but I still hear that song all the time in stores. And it's like, that thing, how's it go? I'm doing that thing you do. Like that song. He was in that movie. I think he was the main character. But I know him from American Werewolf in Paris. Yeah, so it stars Tom Everett Scott as this poor overachiever with a scholarship going to college, and his roommate is a spoiled rich kid played by Mark-Paul Gosselaar. And if it weren't for the fact that he dyed his hair black in this movie, you could so easily just assume that this was Zack Morris's real college years, not the Saved by the Bell college years that no one liked. No, this would be the real Zack Morris college years, because this is actually how you think Zack Morris would act in college. He doesn't go to any classes for his whole semester. He literally skips every class. He has a bong that's probably about 4 feet tall. He hooks up with a different girl every night, and he is an awful influence on his roommate. He kind of brings this guy out of his shell because it's clear this guy needed to get out and have a little bit of fun, but he goes way too far with it. So, because it's all pretty much downhill from the time Tom Everett Scott meets his love interest, played by Poppy Montgomery. And Poppy Montgomery is an actress best known for a show called Unforgettable that came out towards the end of that cop show boom in the 2000s. I never watched it. I think my parents did. But after he meets her and he has sex with her, and that's sort of a great scene because it's very true to college experience. You know, like in high school, you spend so much time with date a girl from lunch just hoping to get some, and then in college, second date, maybe the first date, because he's even shocked by it. He's like, it was time for sex now. Let's have sex. He's just astonished by how easy it was. So he gets him laid, and that just, like the floodgate opened. And then he's just hard partying all semester. His grades fall to hell. He gets himself in such a deep hole that he can't possibly pull himself out of it. He's going to lose his scholarship. He's not going to be able to continue going to college because of that. Like, he needed the scholarship. He can't afford it otherwise. And Mark-Paul Gosselaar, who has been a screw-up all his life, his dad finally is so mad when he finds out that he hasn't gone to one class, not even gone to one class all semester, that he tells him, if you don't pass this semester, I'm pulling you out of school and you're going to go work for my, what is he, a septic tank company or something? He's going to be cleaning toilets. So they desperately both need to get their grades up. And I'm going to say that the first 30 minutes of this movie is, I don't watch a lot of comedies. Or I'll say, I don't watch a lot of comedies beginning to end. I'll watch like 20 minutes of Tommy Boy, or I'll catch a half hour of, I don't know, Starsky and Hutch, or, you know, like I'll watch the middle of Dodgeball. You know, I don't watch a lot of comedies beginning to end because I get tired of them. I get tired of watching people just do the stupidest thing they could possibly do for 90 minutes. But Dead Man on Campus I actually kind of enjoy because the first 30 minutes is just a straightforward comedy. It's very much a college comedy. It's very much getting drunk, getting laid, you know, in the Animal House, Van Wilder vein of college comedies. But once they decide they need to get a roommate that they're going to kill, it gets so dark that you're just amazed this ever got put out there by a major studio. Now, MTV made this movie, and MTV had a very brief period when they were trying to get into film production. It was almost as short as that time when they actually played music on MTV. You remember that? Back when, no one remembers that. MTV hasn't played music for 15 fucking years. They should really change the name. What is even on MTV anymore? Like, last I checked, it was just all reality shows. But MTV was behind this movie, and this movie's producer is Gail Ann Hurd. Now, this movie was directed by a guy you'd expect to direct a movie like this. He did a bunch of episodes of the old Jimmy Kimmel show, The Man Show, on Comedy Central, and he did some other stuff on Comedy Central. But this is produced by Gail Ann Hurd, producer of most of James Cameron's early films, T2. I think she did Aliens. I think she was behind True Lies. Maybe not True Lies. I think maybe not True Lies. But she did a lot of big movies, and she's currently known as the producer of The Walking Dead and its spinoff, Fear the Walking Dead. I have no idea how she got attached to this movie, but Gail Ann Hurd is a producer on this one. So once they determine that they're going to find someone to, first off, it's Mark-Paul Gosselaar who it really researches this because, you know, he's the dick of the two. And he actually asked Tom Everett Scott, his roommate, like, would you kill yourself to give me, like, he's like, well, why should we both? Like, he is just such an awful person in this movie. He straight up suggests they murder someone at one point. He is more emotional about his bong getting broken by a lot than he is when a friend of theirs actually does attempt to commit suicide later in the movie. He is just absolute sociopath. It is friggin' hilarious. I mean, this really is almost watching an R-rated Zack Morris. It's kind of great. So the first 30 minutes of the movie, though, it's just standard. I might get a laugh here or there. If you like college comedies, you'll really like it. But once it gets into the suicide stuff, because basically what they do is, okay, so Tom Everett Scott refuses to kill himself, to sacrifice himself to get Mark-Paul Gosselaar straight A's for a semester. Keep in mind, this is only for a semester. This isn't for college. So they're like, okay, so we need to just find someone who is probably going to kill themselves anyway and get them to move in with us because they're in a bedroom dorm for 3 people. I've actually never seen a dorm that big, but I didn't go to a rich kid's college, so maybe I wouldn't know. So they have an empty room, and they're trying to get a third person to move in. And the reason they have an empty room is because their original roommate, played by Jason Segel, moves out to live with his girlfriend, played by Linda Cardellini. So yes, this is a Freaks and Geeks prequel, I guess, or sequel, maybe, I don't know. But Linda Cardellini, of course, was on Freaks and Geeks with Jason Segel, and then she was on She was the Velma in the live-action Scooby-Doo movies. She was on ER for a while. She has a very small part in this movie. I don't even know if she has any dialogue. But Allison Hannigan is also in this, another Jason Segel love interest from How I Met Your Mother, but they don't interact. Allison Hannigan is just, she's basically playing the exact same character she played in everything in the 90s, American Pie, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, just the awkward wallflower girl that's friends with Tom Everett Scott's girlfriend. That's part of, I'll get to that later. So they narrow down to three guys, and one is this computer nerd who is obviously paranoid delusional. They go to the crisis center on the college campus and just scope people out, and then they break in and steal a bunch of files. So they get narrowed down to three people they think are the most likely candidates to actually off themselves, and it's a nerd who is obviously paranoid delusional. Like, he is clearly schizophrenic and not being treated, so this is a really bad crisis center. Then this goth kid who's always talking about offing himself, and he's in the lead singer of a band called, I can't remember what the band was called, but their song is called Sperm, and it sounds a lot like a bad knockoff of like Ministry. So and then the third guy is a deranged frat boy named Cliff, played by Lachlan Monroe, who completely steals the movie, even though he's only in the middle of the movie and then a little bit at the end. And Lachlan Monroe is like if John Belushi in Animal House was on just crack and meth and just every drug and just at a 10 all the time. It's hilarious. So they go through it in, you know, like the frat boy, the computer nerd, and then the goth guy. So the frat boy is just psychotic. He's not even suicidal necessarily. He just has no sense of his own safety and well-being. He's like walking on a railing probably 15 stories up throwing water balloons. Like, he just might accidentally kill himself. Talk about how he got his, he doesn't have a license anymore. It got suspended because of attempted vehicular manslaughter, whatever the hell that means. He sings this song, it's funny as shit. He goes, "My name is Cliff, brother of Joe. I got me some crack. I want me some hose." He's funny as hell. He's like, "Let's go find a prostitute. I know a prostitute named Carl. She's beautiful." Like, Cliff is hilarious, and he ends up getting a shootout with the cops and just dips out of the movie for a while after that. So like, oh, we're not going to do a Cliff because he's going to take us with him. He's definitely going to get us a kill too. So they go to Computer Nerd, and Computer Nerd's honestly a little too smart for him. Not that that's saying much because these two are idiots. They're walking around with nooses and knives. And then they go to the goth kid, and the goth kid seems like he's actually going to do it, except that maybe he's not as into the goth as he like pretends to be. So it's just a really funny dark comedy. It goes all over the place. It's a good 90s time capsule too, as you can tell by the garish colors flaring behind me. Yeah, it starts with a cover of David Bowie's Wonder Years, done by Marilyn Manson. It's actually one of my favorite opening titles of any movie. I would put it right up there with Seven and Lord of War, because it's showing all these college exam papers that have been redone as ways of killing yourself, like best way to hang yourself. It's do you insert knife here to cut your wrist? Like, it's interesting, and it's really dark. It's, again, kind of amazing that this movie got through. So it's kind of dated in some ways. I mean, obviously the style and fashion is going to be very 90s, but there's certain parts, like at one point after they break into the file room for that college crisis center, they start chanting, "We were so badass, we were like Van Damme, Van Damme, Van Damme." Like, even in the late 90s, that was a little bit of a dated reference. Like, today, the average 15, 20-year-old's not going to know who the hell Jean-Claude Van Damme is. But overall, a lot of the jokes in this second, like I said, the first 30 minutes of this movie is pretty weak. But once it gets into the whole trying to get someone to kill themselves so you can get straight A's for one semester, I got to emphasize, it's for one semester. They are not talking about graduating college with straight A's. They're just trying to get through one damn semester, and they're going to get someone to kill themselves for this. So it's a funny, dumb little movie, and I think that it's interesting seeing Mark-Paul Gosselaar play this role kind of not really one last time, because I think they brought I know they brought Zack Morris back on that revival. He's not the main character. And Tom Everett Scott's fine. He's playing basically the same character he did in American Werewolf in Paris, just kind of an awkward, nice guy type role. But, yeah, it's a funny little movie, and I enjoy it, and just all this talking about Saved by the Bell reminded me that this is one of the few college comedies I actually like enough to go back to intentionally. I don't just catch part of it on TV or something. So it's an interesting watch, and it's like I said, it was released. Weirdly enough, it was actually released at the same time as another movie. I think they were released within a couple of months of each other, called The Curve, which is a straight up horror thriller, which is about the same thing. It's about two guys who are trying to get straight A's by killing a friend of theirs and making it look like suicide. It starred Matthew Lillard from Scream and the also the live action Scooby Doo movies, and Michael Vartan, who's popped up in a ton of stuff. I mostly know him from that Robin Williams movie, 1 Hour Photo, and it had Kerry Russell in it, the really pretty woman who was on Felicity, and then she was on The Americans. She's been in a few other movies, but yeah, that movie's a straight up horror thriller, but it's about the exact same thing. And like I said, this is one of those weird times where they just released two movies that were almost had the exact same premise. You know, two idiots who are trying to get someone off themselves or kill them to get straight A's in college. And I should really look this up because I have no idea if this is true or not. I've never actually gotten around to checking it. It may be specific to certain colleges, or it may just be a pure urban myth that has no basis in fact whatsoever. But yeah, Dead Man on Campus, a play on the phrase Big Man on Campus, which was also already a pretty dated phrase. No one said that in the 90s. I had never heard a human being say that, so that maybe wasn't the best title. It kind of makes it sound like it's going to be a zombie movie, which it's not at all. There's obviously no supernatural element to this. But yeah, you get some fun little, like, pop-up, oh yeah, that person. Like I said, Allison Hannigan, is fun seeing her just randomly show up in this movie. At one point, Cliff, the psychotic frat boy, tries to force her to do bong hits with him and accidentally lights her hair on fire. And then to put it out, he wants to piss on it. That's how you do it. So yeah, I enjoy this movie. I think it's one that people who are really into Saved by the Bell should definitely go back and check out.